Welcome to Falls Count Anywhere, where the wrestling ring meets the heart. Hosted by the gentleman Jody Powell, join us as we dive into the latest pro wrestling news and rumors, from the electrifying world of WWE to the inspiring stories of wrestling for Christ. This is your all-access pass to the action, the faith, and the hope. This is Falls Count Anywhere.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Falls Count Anywhere. I am your host, the gentleman Jody Powell, and with me, as always, the mad scientist Mike Buchanan. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I am fine, jovial Jody. How are you, sir?
Man, I couldn't be better if I had just won a crown jewel ring, which apparently they're handing out to just about anybody these days. My question is, what are we working on in the Buchanan laboratory?
Well, you and I were talking about this before we went on the air, and it took me back to my southern roots. For you, Jody, I am trying to develop a tea leaf that will automatically brew sweet tea when it is put through the machine.
Ooh, now that is an invention I can get with, my friend. And now tell me, are there going to be flavors? I mean, you're going to put a little lemon sweet tea, or
wait, what?
What
did AWOL hit you with this chair? And I missed that on the show?
Lucky for him, he didn't. What do you mean? You've never had lemon in your sweet tea, Mike?
I did. I spit it out. What's the purpose of lemon in sweet tea?
Oh, my goodness.
If the Lord would have wanted us to have lemon in our sweet tea, he'd have combined the lemon and the tea plant in the first place.
Well, I mean, really, if he wanted us to put sugar in it, he would have done the same thing instead of you having to do it in the lab.
That's a fair point, Mr. Powell. That is a fair point.
Well, I think we will just have to agree to disagree. Oh, my goodness. But I tell you, I love that idea. I love the concoction, a sweet tea leaf. I think it's great. I can't wait to try it, my friend. But what do you say we try getting into some sweet wrestling action and start with the WWE? What do you say?
Sweet segue.
Well, I tell you what, there's something I want to just jump right into, and that is this bloodline story that continues to develop. As we've had Crown Jewel now, we've seen Roman Reigns pin for the first time in Saudi Arabia in like 4,674 days or something ridiculous like that. I mean, it wasn't really a record considering they hardly ever go over there. But anyway, Roman Reigns took the pin there from Solo. And then afterwards, a little Usi action with Sami Zayn, the honorary Us, kicking the teeth out of the mouth of Roman Reigns by accident. So it just kind of begs the question, Mike. I kind of started thinking about this. You've got, obviously, we're heading toward some kind of Survivor Series match with Roman's bloodline and Solo's bloodline coming together inside of War Games, probably. So here's the deal. Let's pick one person off of each team. If you could pick one person off of each team that is going to turn on their team, who would it be?
Well, I'm a baseball fan. That's why I referenced Ty Cobb a minute ago. The original Georgia Peach. And what used to excite baseball fans was a superstar trade. What if the WWE did? All four men are in the ring, heading to that crescendo. The Usos and Zayn are tied up with Fatu and the former tag team champions. And it's just Roman and Solo.
Okay.
And Romo just beats the absolute dog mess out of him to the point where everybody is trying to pull Roman off of Solo. Solo's quit. Solo's done. The refs run the bell 50,000 times, and Roman won't quit. And finally, he quits and steps back. And the Usos are like, what are you doing? We don't understand this. What's gotten into you?
Too brutal.
Too brutal. It's like, you have a reputation. What the heck?
Okay.
And then on one ring, you have the Usos and Zayn. On
Yeah.
the other, you have the tag team and Fatu.
Yep.
Solo's in a mess, just bleeding all over the place. I don't
He's
like
done.
crowds. And then Reigns steps in with Fatu and the tag team.
Okay.
And from outside the ring, Fatu presents Roman Reigns with the Ala Fala. Roman becomes bad. Solo might have to become a face.
Interesting. Now, that's something I could get behind. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Completely out of the blue, completely unexpected, which is what I love about it. That's interesting. That's an interesting thought. I went another way.
What's that?
So if one member of the OG bloodline had to turn, it's going to be the member of the OG bloodline that's not a member of the OG bloodline. The non-family member, the honorary use, Sami Zayn. What if we saw Sami Zayn turn, especially on main event Jey Uso, right in the middle of the ring, puts him down, costs the team the match, sides with Solo, Jacob Fatu, and the Tongans, and really starts to get back into the character that I loved. That is that Sammy Fidel Castro dictator, guerrilla warrior, whatever he was a few years ago. Now, I think the WWE completely mishandled that. I think that character had such potential. There was such an opportunity to use Sami Zayn in such a villainous, evil, maniacal dictatorship role that they kind of tried to put Seth Rollins in a few years ago when he was, kind of the crazy cult leader, czar, revolutionary, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Sami Zayn would have filled that role so much better if they had handled that character a little bit. So maybe I'm being a little nostalgic here, Mike, and wanting something back that I thought was going to be really good and powerful instead of turning into some kind of comedy relief, which is how the WWE booked it. And you know how I am about that. I mean, I have my own feelings about The Miz as well, who could have been one of the greatest WWE superstars if he had not been booked so horribly these last 15 years.
Yeah.
But apparently he's been kidnapped and is missing.
Horrible booking.
Right. So yeah, I'd go Sami Zayn on the OGs. Now, on the other side.
See, you had me because for a moment I flashed to a 5-man tribe.
And it could be. It could be a 5-man tribe.
My vintage tipped up and I went, the NWO was great up to a certain point before they were letting the taxi driver and the waitress and Boudreaux. That's where Boudreaux actually had to start in wrestling. He was a member of the NWO way back when.
I was a member of the NWO way back when. What are you talking about?
I thought so.
I was in the Wolfpack. I thought
you were one of the fake Stings.
No, I was in the Wolfpack. Yeah, I was one of the Stings. A lot of hair ago.
But anyway, who would switch from the new tribe?
On the other side, it's got to be, and I think it's coming. I think it's coming eventually. Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is the one that's going to emerge out of all of this as the breakout star. I think his in-ring work is incredible. He has incredible athletic ability. He has that killer instinct that you think is only good for the heel until he turns face and you're like, oh, wow, it's 10 times better over here on this side of the fence. I think he is going to ultimately be the leader of the bloodline. I think he will ultimately be, he will take the reins, so to speak, from Roman. and pass Solo Sikoa. And Solo Sikoa will be a footnote in the history of this particular bloodline, I believe. I believe it'll be Jacob Fatu, and whether he does that with Solo or against Solo doesn't really matter. I think he's going to become the tribal chief.
You may be right. Maybe before Rhodes, Rock passes the torch to Fatu.
Could be the final boss passing it along to Jacob Fatu, the Samoan Wolverine. Well, fans, right after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little wrestling for Christ. 16 men have been announced for the Television Turmoil Tournament. We're going to find out who they are right after these messages. Hello, wrestling fans. The Gentleman Jody Powell here. Are you searching for an engaging speaker for your next church event, civic meeting, industry conference, or a company-wide motivational session? Well, look no further. I'd be honored to bring energy, insight, and inspiration to your event. With experience as a 2022 Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking semifinalist, I know how to connect with audiences, both large and small. Whether it's an intimate gathering or a packed auditorium, I'll deliver a memorable and impactful message tailored to your needs. Visit today at www.jodypowellspeaks.com to explore my keynotes, talks, and trainings. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Book me today. You'll be glad you did. Well, fans, welcome back to Falls Count Anywhere. And Mike, let's dig into the WFC. And this past Saturday night was a great recap of everything that was going on in the world of the WFC. But the big news, I think, coming out of Saturday night is the announcement of all 16 men who are going to be in the Television Turmoil Tournament. All of them competing for the contents of the mysterious briefcase. So what I thought we would do, man, is go through this bracket, break it down. Let's talk about who's going to be coming out on top. Some of these matchups are incredible, Mike.
Yeah, I was looking at that before we went on there. Some of them are really interesting, I think, there, Jody.
Well, it's what I love about this, number one, is on the left-hand side, going all the way to the bottom, AWOL and Kenny Austin are going to be getting after each other right off the bat in round one. And we all know that Kenny Austin and Chris Thunder Anderson are suspects number 1 and 1A for the individuals who attacked AWOL behind the Kings Mountain Arena, left him laying out with a broken ankle on pallets. Because we saw the evidence of Sir Charles Humperdinck hanging around back there. And, of course, Sir Charles, manager of the Conquerors, Kenny Austin and Chris Anderson. Speaking of Chris Anderson's got Katie Idol in round one. Zachariah Cutter's got the Hornet in round one. There's a potential matchup between Zachariah Cutter and your social media buddy, Chris Thunder Anderson, in round two. Mike, what was that?
What was what? I'm innocent, I tell you.
Chris Thunder Anderson on social media telling the mad scientist Mike Buchanan, keep my name out of your mouth.
All right, so I'll do that for him because I respect other people's wishes. Here's what's going to happen, though. Come round two, I'm going to assume that Mr. Idol loses and the Hornet loses. No offense, fellas, but I need y'all to do that so this works. Then Zachariah Cutter's going to move on to round number two against somebody that I'm not supposed to talk about. In that round two matchup, person I'm not supposed to talk about is going home.
Ooh.
But his name never came out of my mouth, gentlemen. You're a witness. The thousands of people that watch this show of ours, thank you again, folks, for watching our show. But that's what's going to happen. And I never said his name.
Never said his name, indeed. Bold prediction. Zachariah Cutter could be the kid coming out of that bracket up top with Chris Anderson, Katie Idol, the Hornet, and Zachariah Cutter. What's interesting, I think, Mike, is that the bracket below it's got Nathan Sawyer right there taking on Big Dan Holman. Nathan Sawyer's been very vocal the last few weeks about defending his yard, as he calls it. He calls the ring his yard. He's going to defend it. This commissioner has put this tournament together in his yard, and he's going to defend his yard. So that'll be interesting to see. And, of course, my theory in that the Mad Dog Nathan Sawyer, Buzzsaw Sawyer, really starting to come together here as a tag team. I've asked the question now twice. Given a baseball analogy, was told that I have swung and missed twice. It's strike two, one more and I'm out. But Mike, I've got a trick up my sleeve the next time I talk to Nathan Sawyer. Oh no, you'll have to tune into Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour to find out what that trick is the next time I talk to Nathan Sawyer, because I believe that the Sawyer brothers are on a path of becoming tag teams. And if they are, that's going to throw that tag team division upside down. And it could start right there in the second round when Nathan Sawyer takes on one half of the tag team champions, Dylan Dollar, if Dylan Dollar can get past Stormtrooper, which he should be able to do, being a tag team champion. But that'll be an interesting matchup as well. We haven't talked much about that top bracket up there. John Matthews taking on said Sawyer brother, Buzzsaw Sawyer. That's going to be a tough matchup for John Matthews. That was a really bad draw for John. And then coming out of that, that winner could potentially be taking on the other half of the tag team champions, Travis Roberts, if he is able to get by Curtis Robinson, who has been inserted into this tournament based on a past match he had on Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour. Impressed the commissioner. So the commissioner said, hey, let's put him in and see what happens. Who knows, Mike? Curtis Robinson may be the man to go all the way to the finals.
Let me blow up your tag team idea with the Sawyer brothers.
Okay, hit me with it.
They're on opposite sides of the brackets. I said Hunter would make it to the semifinals. What if he loses to Nathan? And what if Buzzsaw works his way to the final on the other side? You can't tell me that if those two hook up in the final, unless what's in that briefcase is an automatic, you two must team up with each other for the rest of the year, or the rest of next year. You can't tell me that those two are going to team up if one of them beats the other one for whatever's in that briefcase.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I mean, I could turn that around. What if Travis Roberts ends up facing Dylan Dollar? The tag team champions battling each other out for the contents of the briefcase. But here's someone, Mike, that we haven't mentioned and that we should. Loaded Guns Ken Magnum taking on Dre White in round one. Going to run into either AWOL or Kenny Austin in round two. I don't know that there's anyone that's going to stop Loaded Guns Ken Magnum. In fact, Mike, I'm going to go out on a limb. Ken Magnum is my prediction to win this television turmoil tournament.
Wow.
He's intense, man. And he's an incredible worker. And we'll have to see if Ken Magnum's able to do it. So what I want to know, though, Mike, is 16 men listed here. Who you got, buddy? Who you going to mortgage the house on?
I'm mortgaging the house on anybody because my wife doesn't want me to bet. So happy wife, happy life. Let me see. Here's what you have to think about, though.
All right.
I could be wrong. You've got two wrestlers on opposite sides of the spectrum managed by, what is his name? What's his first name?
Sir Charles Humperdinck.
Yes, Charles Humperdinck. Right. So if the Pumpkin wants to get involved, either one of his men could win it all. But not the one I'm not supposed to talk about. So that would leave us with Kenny Austin. So there you go.
So to be Kenny Austin. Well, Kenny Austin's got that first round matchup with AWOL. And, I don't know that this match may end up being like a double DQ. I don't know, because AWOL's he doesn't care about this tournament. All he wants to know is who injured his partner.
Is this an indoor or outdoor card?
We're not sure. We don't even know when it is. The commissioner has not even said when it's going to be. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
That could also determine some stuff.
It could determine some stuff. And I tell you what, if AWOL wants to step into the ring and start causing havoc, wreaking havoc here, I'm just going to have to step in and do something about that, because I'm about sick and tired of AWOL running rampant through the locker room and putting his hands on everyone, including yours truly. So we'll have to see what happens there. Well,
Gentlemen,
fans,
not being so gentlemanly.
well, at some point, Mike, a gentleman has to stand up for himself. And that's what's going to happen if he puts his hands on me again. Be that as it may, fans, we are just a commercial break away from my favorite segment, my favorite time of the week, Finding Tomorrow. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Oh, hello, wrestling fans. The gentleman Jody Powell here. And I can't tell you how much I love this devotional written by my partner on Falls Count Anywhere, the mad scientist, Mike Buchanan. He wrote this book called Feeling Down, Look Up. You want to get your copy today? It's on Amazon. So you're going to want to search for Feeling Down, Look Up by Mike Buchanan. And it's got verses, it's got stories, it's even got a place to make notes. It's fantastic. You'll thank me later. Hello, wrestling fans. The gentleman Jody Powell here. Are you searching for an engaging speaker for your next church event, civic meeting, industry conference, or a company-wide motivational session? Well, look no further. I'd be honored to bring energy, insight, and inspiration to your event. With experience as a 2022 Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking semifinalist, I know how to connect with audiences, both large and small. Whether it's an intimate gathering or a packed auditorium, I'll deliver a memorable and impactful message tailored to your needs. Visit today at www.jodypowellspeaks.com to explore my keynotes, talks, and trainings. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Book me today. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back, wrestling fans and Finding Tomorrow fans as well. Jody, let me ask you this, sir.
Okay.
What do you think about prayers whose answers are delayed?
Prayers whose answers are delayed. I'm going to say I don't believe that actually happens. And here's why.
Okay.
And it may just be a little bit of semantics here. I believe that when we pray for things, that God answers immediately. And sometimes those answers are yes. Sometimes it's no. Sometimes it's not right now.
Okay. That's
fair. And he's not obligated to give us his answer right away. And I don't think there's a verse in the Bible that says, pray to me and I will answer your prayer immediately. He is not ChatGPT. So
thank God for that. Literally.
Right. I know. Yeah. So instead of delayed answers, I'm going to say maybe it's more like delayed results.
I like
because that does happen.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, here's why I brought that up. I know that when you're finding tomorrow, when times are rough, I mean, I've been there. I'm going to have Jody talk about one of his situations here in a moment. But when you're trying to find that tomorrow and you pray and you ask the Lord, whether it's for wisdom or resources or whatever it is, and you ask and you ask and you ask, and nothing happens, you're like, is it a wait? Is it a no? Is it a yes? I just want some kind of answer. You're not alone. Imagine you've been taken away from your home. How far? Only 700 miles. You're under control by one of the most ruthless people that ever lived. And I'm not talking about Hitler or the yo-yos in Tehran right now. I'm not talking about a communist. I'm talking about Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel was that man. Daniel needed answers. This is what happened for Daniel. Daniel 10, 10 verse 11 to start. And the man said to me, Daniel, you are very precious to God. So listen carefully to what I have to say to you. Stand up, for I have been sent to you. When he said this to me, I stood up, still trembling. Then he said, don't be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day you began to pray for understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your request has been heard in heaven. His prayer was immediately answered. The results? Your request has been heard in heaven. I have come in answer to your prayer. But For 21 days, the spirit prince of the kingdom of Persia, which is where Daniel was, what we know as modern day Iran, blocked my way. Then Michael, one of the archangels, came to help me, and I left him there with the spirit prince of the kingdom of Persia. Sometimes Paul talks about spiritual warfare. Sometimes that's where our answers are. They're held up, no matter what that answer is, yes, no, or wait.
Yep, very true, Mike. And sometimes those answers don't come in 21 days. Sometimes they don't come in 21 years. Sometimes we are praying for things for a long, long time. And you know, I've experienced that with my wife, and she's had some medical issues with her eyes, and you know, a lot of strange things happening with her eye. It's a condition called optic neuritis, and it's a precursor to MS, but she doesn't have MS. It can be a precursor to lupus, but she doesn't have lupus. It can be a precursor to Sjögren's disease. She doesn't have that. We know a lot of things that she doesn't have. And for us, the prayer has always been, God, just please tell us what's causing this. Please let us know what's going on. How can we, so that the doctors can treat it? Let us find this out. Mike, that was 13 years ago. And she's had another bout just recently, in fact, the first of this year, with optic neuritis. And again, we went through all the same tests with all the same results. And to this day, we do not know what causes it. And that's frustrating. It can be frustrating. We pray for those answers. And sometimes those answers are delayed, as we just heard in Daniel. Sometimes they're not coming. Sometimes they may not come at all. It may not be in God's will for us to know, but to just persevere. And that's what it talks about in James 1, verses 2-4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So when we try to find tomorrow and we want to find answers, sometimes we may be asking the wrong questions. You know, it goes back to Rowdy Roddy Piper. Just when you think I have all the answers, I change the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe we should change some questions.
And that's great. About the whole timing thing, you know, God's already seen everything that's going to happen to our lives and anybody that comes after us.
That's right.
There's a verse in Isaiah, and I always tease people about it. I always say, I believe that the Bible, top to bottom, is the inspired word of God. However, it did use humans, fallible as they are, to write it down. And I've always felt that some human along the way left out a couple of words in this verse. It's Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. He's talking to Isaiah, the Lord is, and he says, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. And what the mad scientist thinks has been dropped in a Hebrew hut somewhere along the way, or an Englishman's tavern, if you will, from when they wrote it in King James, is there's nothing about God's timing. Because God's timing is so much different than ours. It ain't funny. That's where Mark's verse in James about, Jody's verse in James, but about patience comes into play.
Yeah. Timing is everything, so they say. But God's timing is perfect. And so when we look to find tomorrow, we need to understand that tomorrow may come and the answers may not be there. But the good news is that God is. He's there. And that's what you find in tomorrow. Answers are one thing, but having God there, trusting God, that's quite another.
Absolutely.
Well, fans, that's all the time we have for Fighting Tomorrow in Falls Count Anywhere. Stay tuned, because coming up is The Clash with Jeff Dixon, Chris Whaley, right here on Abundant TV.